This is take one. Well, our holiday movie this week is Home Alone. You're probably familiar with it. It's that movie from back in the 90s where there's a couple of families gathered together in one house and they're getting ready to go on a trip to Paris. And there's nothing but pure chaos going on in that household. People running up and down the stairs, people packing suitcases, looking for this and that and the other thing. And it's a story about this 6-year-old, Kevin. And Kevin can't get things sorted out for himself. He's told to go pack his suitcase. And he says, I can't pack it, I'm too young. Well, his sister tells Kevin, Kevin, you're completely helpless. And then comes near a final scene in that chaos that night is when the pizzas finally show up and they're all hungry and ready to eat. And finally Kevin gets in there and says, what about my cheese pizza? It was all gone. And so in his anger, he takes his head and rams it into his brother's stomach. And there his brother goes flying along with the milk and the soda all over the place. And his brother gets up and says, Kevin, you're such a disease. Well, that night, Kevin trumps up to the attic bedroom. And he says, this house is so full of people, I wish they would all just disappear. And lo and behold, he wakes up the next morning, and they're all gone. It's like his dream has come true. Home alone. Well, what about you during this holiday season? How's your Christmas chaos going? Have the presents been purchased? Have the decorations been displayed? What about the events? Have they been organized and have you been attending them? And the last and final thing is usually the cards and the packages that have been mailed and sent off. But what else could you be forgetting? One thing I found in preparation for this message was that there were two people in the movie Home Alone. One was Kevin, but one was the neighbor across the street, Old Man Marley. Kevin's older brother told the story of Old Man Marley that, it's that legend that he had been guilty of murdering somebody with a shovel, the shovel that he was using, spreading salt on the sidewalk that they see. Well, we all seem to have those kind of neighbors growing up. In my neighborhood, it was Miss Krabby. And then at the end of this story that Kevin's brother is telling him, he says, you know what? Old Man Marley has been hiding out in the neighborhood ever since that day. Well, I think Old Man Marley reminds us that there are others. And we have to ask the question, who are the ignored and the forgotten among us? Maybe it could be those who are hospitalized or in nursing homes that we are acquainted with. What about the single, the widow and the widower, the divorced? Maybe you have in your situation an estranged family member, that old drunk uncle that comedians talk about. Or maybe there's somebody who's imprisoned. And it might be because they're behind bars, or maybe even imprisoned in their own bodies. What we find out is we're typically afraid to engage these people. That's why they're kept home alone, because we don't want to encounter them. We're afraid of how they might act or speak or smell or just something. And we're uncertain. And what we find out is we're never too old to be afraid. Sort of like in the movie, Kevin, he had a fear of basements. And our fears of relationships with these people are like that fear of basements. They're dark. They're filled with uncertainty, the unknown. We don't exactly know what we're going to get if we ever encounter or engage them. Yes, just like basements, some of them smell funny. And indeed, just like with Kevin, down in the basement, there are some pretty weird stuff. And sometimes we don't want to encounter those things because of the uncertainty, because of things that might be a little different or weird. And so we'd rather not engage them. And it's probably been something that has bothered you for years, and you've just gotten used to it, and you accept it, and you use it to justify yourself. Well, basements are like that. That's the first take. Next, take two.